On GBNews, Britain's news channel.
Hello, it's 11 o'clock, which means it's time for tomorrow's newspapers. Tonight, apart from dealing with one of the grimmest, most rage-inducing stories that we've had to deal with in Headliners history, join us over the next hour to find out what's too windy for wind farms, which Trump policy has Scotland gone crazy for, and are you ready for the robot Pope? I'm Josh Howie, and tonight I've got top comedians Cressida Wetton and Lewis Schaefer taking you through Friday's top stories. This is Headliners. But before tomorrow's news, let's go to tonight's headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Hello there, very good evening to you. Let's get you up to date with the latest news. Southport child killer Axel Rudakabana has been jailed for a minimum of 52 years, with the judge saying it's highly unlikely he will ever be released. New footage has emerged of the moment Rudakabana left a taxi without paying before launching his knife attack at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class. The court heard harrowing details about how the victims were stabbed multiple times in a ferocious attack that lasted 15 minutes. It's emerged Rudakabana boasted of his attack shortly after being arrested in July last year, telling police it was a good thing the children were dead. The 18-year-old pleaded guilty to the murders of Alice de Silva Aguiar, B.B. King and Elsie Dot Stancombe, and 10 charges of attempted murder. During sentencing, Mr Justice Goose described the attack as ferocious and sadistic. Well, speaking outside court, Chief Crown Prosecutor Sarah Hammond outlined how damaging Rudakabana's actions have been.
Axel Rudakabana is a murderer, and utter devastation followed as he acted out a meticulously planned rampage of murder and violence. His purpose was to kill, and he targeted the youngest, most vulnerable, no doubt in order to spread the greatest level of fear and outrage, which he did.
A man wanted in connection with the death of a woman in Plymouth has been found and arrested on suspicion of murder. Paul Anthony Butler was detained in the Liskeard area of Cornwall, around 20 miles from Plymouth. Officers launched a manhunt for Butler after the attack in Plymouth on Wednesday night. The woman, who has not been officially named, died in hospital in the early hours of Thursday. Donald Trump signed another series of executive orders in the White House. They include one on AI, another on cryptocurrency, and documents related to 3 of the most consequential assassinations in US history, John F. Kennedy, his brother Robert, and Martin Luther King.
Lastly, sir, we have an executive order ordering the declassification of files relating to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
That's a big one, huh? A lot of people are waiting for this for years. For decades. And everything will be revealed.
Millions of people have received emergency alerts on their mobiles over the arrival of Storm Éowyn. The rare red weather warning covers all of Northern Ireland and much of central Scotland, where thousands of schools are expected to close and transport networks will be suspended. Winds of up to 100 miles per hour have been predicted in some coastal areas. People are being advised to avoid the roads and stay at home if possible, with the Met Office warning of a danger to life caused by flying debris. And British stars Ralph Fiennes, and Cynthia Erivo have earned Best Acting Oscar nominations, with the Spanish-language film Emilia Perez leading the way with 13. Erivo's Wicked co-star, Ariana Grande, has been nominated in the Best Supporting category, as has the British actress Felicity Jones for The Brutalist. Sir Elton John's achieved a 5th Original Song nomination for Never Too Late. Ralph Fiennes has been nominated for Conclave. It's his first nod at the Oscars since The English Patient in 1996. Well, those are the latest headlines from me. I'm Aaron Armstrong. We'll be back with more tomorrow morning. For now, let's get on with Headliners.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello, welcome to Headliners, your first look at tomorrow's top stories with three comedians. We're going to kick off with a look at some of the front pages. Start with The Times. Evil killer jailed for 52 years. The Daily Mail, what you did was not only cruel and pure evil, it was the act of a coward. And the Metro, honour them. Obviously, this is meant to be a comedy show, Cresta, but sometimes we just actually got to deal with some real hard life.
Comedians looking at the front pages, aren't we? And the front page of The Times says evil killer jailed for 52 years. So this is obviously Axel Ruder-Cabana, who's been jailed for 52 years for the murder of 3 little girls and injuring far more people than that and traumatising far more people than that. This is incredibly evil. And, of course, the conversation for the day has been 52 years isn't enough, and that's just because he was under 18 when he committed the murders, which is extremely frustrating, and only just under 18 as well.
Well, this is it. I mean, Lewis, the judge said it's highly unlikely that he's going to get out of jail. For many people, highly unlikely is not good enough.
Well, 52 years plus 18 is only 70 years.
Yeah,
70
and you're like 76, aren't you? So
I'm close to that. I thought we said we weren't going to make jokes about this.
No, I was being real there.
And, no, I mean, this is horrible. But I think what's horrible is it's horrible. But I think what's really horrible is everything that's gone under it and around it, all the secrets that have been there, all the maybe lies, possibly lies that have been told by Starmer and the deep state, whatever we're going to call those people, you know, trying to keep things down. As I said, the other show the other night that was on, is that social cohesion is tearing us apart. That's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to keep everybody calm, you know, about this. But the reason people would be really upset if just a normal kid did it. My kids are 22. You feel for them. But I think there's a deeper story, which, as usual, in today is not really being discussed.
Well, there's certainly some evidence of failings in our institutions. Prevent, of course, being recommended 3 times. There's another something that was released in the Guardian. That's the first time I've just read it as the front page came out, talking about how police, supposedly he was found on a bus with a knife by the police a few years ago and just returned home. Now that, again, just seems mental. Well,
one of those things is that on its own isn't necessarily that big a deal, but it's the picture of all of it together, isn't it? It's the lack of joined-up thinking.
I just think any kid who's found with a knife on a bus shouldn't just be returned home and that's the end of it.
So what would you propose, like looking into their home life or
whatever? I mean, the point is, if you're found with a knife, you should be arrested, should go into the court system. I mean, that's the law. For anybody, for any age, then the fact that he was just dropped off home...
Well, it says something about the amount of teenagers with knives, doesn't it? It's actually quite...
But it's meant to be a deterrent. I mean, if they think that they're just going to get a drop-off home and a slap on the wrist on the police, then what's the deterrent?
And he was reported other times to the police, and he was reported to Prevent, which is looking into this thing, and nothing was done. A case could be made that I don't even know what to call the Labour Tory administration, the deep state. They're just a bit soft on this problem, which I feel like we can't even really... I can't discuss it.
Well, I think it's hard to discuss it, Cresta, because it's just evil. I mean, sometimes there's just evil in the world.
No.
You don't think this is just evil? I mean...
This could be perceived. I don't even want to talk about it. It's none of my business.
Well, I think
it's perceived as an act of war. Because this guy, in his head, was a lot of negativity, which a lot of people have negativity, especially when you're 18. You don't necessarily go out and kill somebody, but there's a lot of negativity about children in this country, about certain religious groups in this country, about other religious groups in this country. You know, there's a lot...
One of the things that's so bizarre is his conventional childhood, isn't it? When he was this child who was productive at school and was involved in acting and stuff.
I think the angle that people haven't really talked about is lockdown. It was obvious he was going through some sort of mental crisis when he was 13, and that was 2019, I think. And there'd been instances of him going to school and with knives and whatnot. And then, of course, the country goes into lockdown. I think that is something that is going to only exacerbate what he's obviously had these inclinations to do.
Yeah, and who do you blame for that?
Well,
I blame whatever you call it, the deep state. I blame it that they thought they could just close down schools and everybody would be fine, and they weren't fine. My kid was upset by that, but it's also an 18-year-old. You have to assume that they're not a child anymore.
Yeah.
You know.
Anyway, look, it's just the most horrible thing that I think anybody can really imagine. And you see photos of the girls, and as you say, the other victims as well. And to hear it, this is the first time we've sort of really heard the details today.
Yeah.
And
which is wrong. Which is, I'm being a bit too serious. I think it's like in America, the court case is televised. All the news is televised. You know,
but he's got to have a fair trial.
No, but he don't. They don't have fair trials in America.
No, but that's the different system that we have here, and that is something that we can totally look at. That's valid to look at, but that's the system that we have in place, and that was the system that found him guilty.
And I'm a strange guy from another land, and I'm saying the system is not right. I personally think there's. You know, maybe it's what English people can deal with. Maybe they don't want to deal with all this openness and discussion. But the idea that it's basically hidden behind closed doors until they come up with the the ruling.
Yeah, but then now we are dealing with it, and yeah. Okay, look, let's have a look at some more front pages. The Guardian: Southport attacker jailed for the savage murder of 3 girls. The Telegraph: we face a lifetime of grief. He should face the same. And the Star: there's a rat in my kitchen, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Let's go and have a look at The Guardian. It has similar facts. We've already talked about that, but they've actually got some other news here. Lewis, you're talking about your pal Trump?
Yeah, my good friend Trump. I was speaking to him last night on the phone. No. I mean,
what did he say to you? Wear the red tie?
Well, this tie has gotten a lot of flack already. But it's an expensive tie. It's a polo by Ralph Lauren.
The back of it makes it look like it's something to do with Noddy and Big Ears. They're very bold colours.
Well, that's very English, and I think it's inappropriate for you to mention something that I know nothing about. I do know a little bit.
Well, speaking of things you know nothing about, let's talk about the story.
Well, its quote is, "Shock as Trump halts new civil rights cases." And this is one of the things why they picked this one. They picked this one because he's basically shutting down the leftist state and saying, you're not going to make any charges. You're not going to make any announcements. They've said we're going to look at everything before we move forward, and it's really bothered the hell out of people. And let's say you don't agree with Trump, you're going to think it's a horrible thing, but I think it's a great thing. He's basically given everybody things that they've asked for, things that they didn't even know that they wanted.
So is Cresta, maybe I've misread this, is this more that they're just pausing this stuff for now? There's a difference between getting rid of things like DEI, which I'm on board with, but at the same time it seems to be here to shut down the department that deals with civil rights cases. There's still going to be civil rights issues in America,
yes,
right?
Yes, of course. I love the way this is phrased, further signalling Donald Trump's administration's hostility to racial and gender equality.
Yes.
I would argue that he's for equality as much as you can be. I appreciate we're different in gender, aren't we, Lewis? And I think The Guardian is just telling the story backwards. I think he genuinely wants Martin Luther King's dream. That's what I think.
But this step of closing down any of these cases, I mean, there just has to be at the moment. There are going to be genuine civil rights issues going on in America. I'm not talking about pushing things further and Black Lives Matter and whatever, but there is still prejudice that exists. And you still need to be able to prosecute them. As I have said or asked before, is that what does it mean? I hesitate to say it the way I want to say it, but the truth is that this is written like The Guardian would write it, about like if they're shutting down civil rights cases and they're being racist or whatever. They didn't say racist, but they're being basically racist. And the truth is, Donald Trump, maybe he is or maybe he isn't, but people should have freedom of thought, freedom of speech. It shouldn't be up to the government to try to. The government should stay out of it. Even in America, the American government should stay out of all of this. Well, I don't think it should stay out of it if people break the law, but... Well, what is the law? If the law is not right, then there shouldn't be a law. The law is don't be prejudiced against other people. Yeah, but that's a free... That's my sort of general understanding of the law. That's what your thing is, but it's a free speech issue. Why should we have people telling people what they can and cannot think? The law's not It's not about thinking, though. It's about people. It is a free speech. If someone was actually acting on prejudice... Like if they then that's different to being that's not a free speech. Well, why not? Why did let's say they're acting on, if you punch somebody in the face, well, that's an actual ancient claim. Please, Lewis, don't tell me.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't give me ideas.
I was punched in the face. Do I have to know what the guy's motives were?
Who punched you in the face?
I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not gonna talk. You can Google it yourself.
It's a free speech
issue.
It
was a good story that I made up.
Okay.
And I'm regretting that I made it up. People believe everything that I say. But if somebody does something wrong. I'm old school. I believe in the old wrong. The Bible, 10 Commandments. You kill somebody. You're not supposed to kill somebody. You murder,
We'll get to all of that. Let's have a look, Cresta, at the Telegraph. Of course, they're dealing as their main story there.
Yes,
the victims, the Southport killer. But this is quite interesting, this 100 miles an hour.
Very interesting. 100 miles per hour winds will shut schools but bring turbines to a halt. So wind turbines that don't work because we don't have enough wind also don't work when we have a lot of wind. And we've got a lot of wind, and that means we've got less electricity.
Slight design flaw.
It's embarrassing, isn't it?
How much wind is too much wind?
Well, certainly 100 miles per hour.
You know what's interesting is I thought it would be because it would, like, they'd go round and they'd sort of break with the strain, but it's because they're going to create too much electricity.
Oh, we're going to have a surge.
There's a surge. We can't handle too much electricity.
Well, this is a left-wing issue. They just want to save the world, and they don't care how they do it, even if it's impossible. And so it's Scotland. It's
everywhere.
And what's great about America is Donald Trump has said we're not getting any wind farms, and I agree with them. I think it's really a sweet...
Well, we'll see you in 10 years.
Gasoline energy is the cheapest, easiest thing.
Yeah, whilst we still got it.
Well, we still got it. Not that we still... It's not a fossil fuel. Well, it doesn't come from dinosaurs and plants being buried.
The other thing...
Can I say...
Oh, yeah, no, please, Lewis.
100 mile per hour winds will shut schools, but bring turbines to a halt. No, not but bring turbines to a halt.
Wow.
It's not a reverse. There's a term for that.
Do you hear that, Daily Telegraph? You have failed Lewis Schaefer, and he is furious.
Yeah, they're as bad as the Guardian.
Disgusting. They do have another story, Lewis. I wouldn't mind you just quickly covering. Trump urges Xi to help end Ukraine war. So this is an interesting angle. That Trump is going to China to sort this out.
One thing that Trump does is that's what this article says. The other thing that Trump does is he puts people down, but then he builds them up. And he's building up Xi. Xi will not be in power 1 year from today. Make a note of that. I'm predicting this, even though I don't have any information to justify it. But I have a gut feeling he's not going to be here in a year. The people are...
And if he is...
Do you have any feelings based on information?
No, I don't.
Well, then make something up. Don't make me look bad, Cressida.
OK.
People think that you actually like me sometimes.
I wouldn't try and make you look bad. You can do that on your own. I think that a skillful negotiator always leaves room for the opponent to get out. And he's leaving... some room here, isn't he? We can still be friends. Why don't you help me out with this, mate?
Well, listen, and also, but Xi is arguably the backing. I mean, they're the ones who are buying all of that Russian oil and gas and keeping Putin in power and keeping this war going. So it makes sense to sort of go...
he's asked the right guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this is, I think, I'm going to say something else. This is the time for Donald Trump.
You nearly said Ronald Reagan, didn't you?
I know, because I'm thinking of Ronald Reagan. When Ronald Reagan said, tear down this wall, and he said, we're going to build a Star Wars thing up in the sky to suppress the Russians. It was all bull, basically. And it brought down the Russians, and the Russians were good for like 20, 30 years. And I think China could be. We don't need to have the Communist Party of China in power. And I think Donald Trump could do that.
All right, we'll see. Coming up, that's the front pages done, but make sure you come back to find out all the great stuff they left out. What's Reform's latest vote winner, and what is the Scotland's favourite Trump policy? This is Headliners, only on GB News.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
According to a report from the RAC, many drivers see speed limits as a target rather than anything else. More than 50% of us think it's acceptable to break the speed limit.
So this morning we're asking, is it time to increase the motorway speed limit?
Let's talk to automotive journalists Danny Kelly and Steve Fowler. Gents, what a pleasure to speak to you both in one go.
I think we should join many countries in the European Union that have 130 kilometres speed limit, which is around about 81 miles an hour. I drive to London on a weekly basis, and I think the roads are capable of handling higher speeds. I think unofficially the speed limit, without getting pulled over by the local police at the time, is probably around about 78, 80 miles an hour. And for Bobby's on the motorway doing 70 miles an hour, he wants you to overtake him. He wants the free-flowing of that motorway to continue.
So should we change 70 miles an hour? You know, if people are going 80 miles an hour, just stick to 70 miles an hour as a limit. Yes, you know, it's funny when you're driving along the motorway and there's a police car going at 70 and nobody wants to overtake. But if the average is 80, just leave it at 70.
All the gantries now are fitted with the modern signage where they can change the limit at will. We all know that. It's hard to get up to 70 half the time. So, actually, we could apply those rules, couldn't we, at 80 or even 90 miles an hour and say, well, if the weather's bad, let's reduce it. If the fog's bad, let's reduce it.
Yeah, unfortunately, and I hate to use this phrase, smart motorways, but they're the ones where you have the adjustable limits. They don't cover all of the motorway network, relatively small amount of the motorway network. It is a limit. You know, it's not a target, as I keep saying to my kids. God, they're bored of me saying that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, starting with Friday's Express. Cressida and Reform really do want to take us back to the 60s.
Yes, they do. Reform MPs demand death penalty for Southport killer Axel Rudiker-Barner. So this is Lee Anderson and Rupert Lowe. And particularly Lee Anderson's come out and put this tweet out.
It's a noose.
So he's saying this animal has no right to breathe the same air as the rest of us. And he's saying, I've been consistent on this. He said, this is my opinion over time. Yeah. And he's put a tweet out with, a picture of a noose, and it says, this, showed you my impression, now then, this is what is required. So this is putting the death penalty back on the table for discussion again. In 2010, 51% of Brits were into this idea. It dropped to 40% by 2022.
What are the numbers again? What are they?
51.
We're in favour of the death penalty.
Yeah, and it then dropped to 40% over 12 years.
I wonder now, of course, if it's going to go up.
Well, that is the question. I think it was even higher than that a few years back. I saw a movie called Death Dance with a Stranger. It was the Ruth Ellis, the last woman to be put to death. And I like killing people. I like the idea of killing people. Just murder, murder, murder. But you don't want the state to be involved.
So you think you should do it on a one-on-one basis?
You know what? I actually believe if I had a chance and I could do it secretly and get away with it, I would trust myself to do the
very,
right
very slowly via stress, just wearing people down over time.
And what kind of stress do I get? I'm not even stressed. I am so nice to you, Cressida. You hate me.
You're not stressed, Lewis, but look at the stress you make both of us happen.
Well, that's what... Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologise.
The thing is, in this particular case, I know we're not talking about the particular case, but if somebody's under 18, that's what's put it back on the table.
Yeah.
This wouldn't apply anyway, would it? Because we would only be looking at adults, presumably.
Yeah, but this is not like a knifing in the park or something. This is a deliberate murder.
Yeah, this is about as bad as it gets. There are other options, of course. Demolition Man, styly, freeze people.
What is demolition?
You never seen Demolition Man? Where it's Stallone and they freeze people and they kind of thaw them out in the future or don't thaw them out.
They freeze people?
Yeah.
But depending on whether they decide they've calmed down and forgive them.
I don't know.
Bizarre. I'm still not comfortable with it. I think I'm with the Brits who aren't. I know people get very irate and we arguably waste huge amounts of taxpayers' money. But there's something, I hate to agree with you, but there is something a bit macabre about the state ending alive.
There's also the ideas of mistakes happening.
Yeah.
But when there are certain situations where it's just very clear what has happened and it's pure evil, then it's, for me, it's...
But it could be, you could find out later it was an act of revolution, let's say. But the other side of it is that this is what this country gets on my nerves. It's not an open society. This debate about the death penalty should be had regularly so that people can know what side they're on. It's never discussed. Rarely discussed.
Well, can I actually counter that and say I think it's good that it's not discussed, because the only time it seems to come up is situations like this, based on the most horrific acts. And hopefully, if it's not coming up, then those horrific acts aren't happening.
Yes.
It's interesting that Reform are bringing this up, because if the majority of the country are not into it, it's
I disagree.
It's not necessarily in their best. Well, look, I didn't do the poll, but it's not necessarily in their best interest to say.
We haven't seen enough polls. The polls that I saw were a few years back. It was like 65% were in favour of the death penalty, but it's not discussed.
But was your name put into the onto the Sun, Lewis? And maybe we don't need new prisons. Maybe we are the prison.
Yes, Fury has more than 18,000 foreign criminals living in Britain, 3 times more than 8 years ago. So they've gone up quite a lot. What do they consider a foreign criminal? Is anybody here illegally? Is they consider a foreign criminal? Probably not, because they're giving a free pass to come into the country.
Slightly terrified you got a piece of paper out of your pocket.
I do have a piece of paper, because this is in the Sun. This is in the Sun. So if you want to buy the Sun tomorrow, it's only £1.
God.
People ask me how much.
I genuinely thought you had a fact. I genuinely thought you'd looked at the story and gone, you know what, I'm going to Google this and find out some facts. And you've just been to a newsagent. That's all you've done.
I mean, they're only saying there are 18,000, and then there's the debate between the Tories, who say nobody's being deported because they're a criminal, and then the immigration people saying there's only 18,000, which is like ridiculously low. But the truth is, the reason why this thing has come in is because of Donald Trump. Because he's kicking all those horrible people out, or saying he's going to, or
Well, we've been talking about it on this channel for at least 2 years, in my memory.
But we're not even allowed to really talk about kicking people out.
I think we are.
We have been, haven't we? We talked recently about the Jamaican guy who said he was bisexual and couldn't be returned.
Convicted of rape.
But did we have an opinion? Did you have an opinion on it?
Of course I've got an opinion.
Yes, we had an opinion.
Yeah, kick him out.
But it hasn't been as open. The past year has been amazing for GBNews and for Louis Schaefer and Cressida and Josh. But it has not been. It hasn't been as open.
Well, the Overton window, of course, has widened. That's part of it.
Yes.
The fact it's gone up so much in this amount of time, three times the amount. And now it seems like the Labour government, they are actually getting more on top of it. At least there's 16,000 people removed in the last 6 months. They're saying that.
That's the soundbite.
But the fact that there are any foreign criminals in this country, I mean, OK, let's say violence at least, should just... It's so frustrating because why are they here? Just get rid of them.
This MP, Tory MP, Neil O'Brien, he told The Sun, the truth is that until the government stops putting human rights concerns over the British people, like, aren't they humans as well?
Well, this is human rights versus human rights. Who's more human? Or not more human, but...
Well, they have
I think the citizens...
That was the wrong way of phrasing it, by the way. That's going to get me in trouble.
I think Cressida hits the nail on the head. They don't think of English people as human, which is why they cut back their, whatchamacallit, the heating...
It's taking British people for granted.
Yes.
I know they don't take them for granted. They don't like them. It's not that they're ignoring them. It's not that they don't care about. They don't like them. They want them dead. That's what the whole COVID thing was. That's what freezing them to death via the...
I don't know. Maybe not wanting is a slight thing. Right, Daily Mail next, where Scottish...
It's your job to balance it for all.
No, I'm letting you just jump off.
No, you don't. I'm constantly telling me I've got to control myself. I'm not going to control myself.
I don't want to control you.
Yes, you do.
No, because then I get all these people messaging me. Why are you controlling Lewis?
Yes.
Right, Daily Mail next, where Cressida, Scottish people are talking dirty.
Nice. Scots tell Starmer to drill, baby, drill in the North Sea.
Yum, yum.
It's more than 70% back using domestic oil and gas instead of imports to secure energy supplies. Of course they do. If you had oil on your doorstep and possibly a very nice job out of it, thank you very much, you would want to use it, wouldn't you? At the moment, 2/5 of the UK's energy needs are imports, which is... It's too much, isn't it?
When we've got it ourselves.
When it's right there.
And we're giving money to other people.
It's like getting an Uber Eats delivery when you've got something in the freezer, I don't know. So, yeah, people, of course, I'm not surprised by this. The idea is we're supposed to be going to 95% of power from clean energy by 2030, and, of course, everyone's saying, oh, it's a bit quick. And, of course, as you said, we've got Trump in the headlines at the moment. Well, he's not doing any of this. So I'm not really surprised that people have these fears. And also, blackout concerns is something we keep hearing about. We've just heard the wind turbines can't cope with wind, so I'm not surprised.
Well, can I agree with you 100%? The fact is, Donald Trump did this. He went in and he said, "Okay, we're going to start drilling. We're not running out of out of whatchamacallit, out of
oil.
Oil is not a fossil fuel. It does not come from dinosaurs. It doesn't come from piles.
Where does it come from?
It comes from the space, from when Jupiter exploded.
Meteors.
In space. Meteors. It comes from meteors. Of course it does. Well, you take a look at the Titan, which is the largest moon of Saturn. I believe it's Saturn. It could be Jupiter. One of the two. And it has enough petrochemicals on it. It has more than the Earth does. It's just petrochemicals. And where did that come from? Exactly.
Where?
It comes from, you take oxygen. What is a petrochemical? Hydrogen, carbon, and oxygen combined. And what happens is they mix together.
No, so you do me a massive favour. You write all of this up, and then I'll give it to my kids, and they can take it into school with them, and they can get an A+ in their essay.
No, they get kicked out of school. Velikovsky. You just Google Velikovsky.
Okay, you could just do that as well.
Petrochemicals, God's gift.
From Jupiter. Okay, there we go.
Or Saturn. They're floating around. It's all around.
It's good to know. Good to know. Thank you so much, Lewis. By the way, I should point out I'm being sarcastic before you write in. Coming up, some fantastic stories coming up that you do not want to miss. Where should wives move if they have ugly husbands? And what is Channel 4's latest controversial show about? Find out in 2 minutes.
Evening, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Storm Aowen is already affecting parts of the Republic of Ireland with some heavy rain setting in, and the winds will continue to strengthen as we go through the night. Here is that storm system. It's been heading towards us over the past 24 hours and now, as I say, arriving across the Republic of Ireland, also throwing rain up across the southwest of the UK. There'll be some snow mixed in as it arrives across Northern Ireland, over the hills, and then as it spreads across Scotland, quite a bit of snow over the hills too, and wet weather sweeping across all areas by morning time. The main concern, though, is the winds. We have a number of Met Office warnings in place, including red weather warnings for Northern Ireland, central and southwestern Scotland. Gust of wind in that red zone, 90 miles an hour, maybe more in exposed areas. Amber weather warnings flanking those red warnings. Also in here, significant disruption across northern England, North Wales and northern Scotland. So yes, very windy. Some of the strongest winds likely through the morning rush hour across Northern Ireland. Gusts here, as I said, 90 miles an hour, maybe more around coasts, but also then moving into the southwestern corner of Scotland and through the central belt during the morning into the early afternoon. But everywhere it's going to be a very blustery start. And across East Anglia in the southeast, it's also going to be a pretty wet start, but it will be a milder start than we've seen of late. That rain should tend to pull away, and actually for a good chunk of England and Wales, it's a dry, fine, bright day with some sunny spells, but it's going to be very windy, especially across northern England. Those damaging gusts, though, or the most damaging gusts, likely to head into western Scotland through the early afternoon and linger in northern Scotland even into the overnight period. Temperatures a little higher than they have been, of course, not feeling all that mild with the strength of the winds. Saturday's a calmer day, a cold start, some showers in the west, many places dry and bright. Do keep up to date with the forecast. See those warnings for yourself on the Met Office website.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's kick off with Friday's Telegraph. And Lewis, you're lucky you don't put on deodorant because someone might see it and call you a Nazi. Do you get it?
Oh, I see, because of that.
Yeah.
What is that? So we're skipping story 8 then? Now,
we're on number 10. High-old
number
Tesla
10.
projected onto German car factory.
Thank you very well. You're making it seem like I wasn't prepared for that, which I'm not. This is in the Telegraph, which tomorrow is only £3.50. Friday. And Friday's the best. It's always a lot of news there. Well, this is the thing. What's his name? I won't even do it. What's his name?
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk, who is a great man, who's brought billions of dollars of business to America, who's made people richer, who's going to Mars. Not that I care. I think it's stupid. He's going to Mars. And
he's going to go find some oil, right, on Mars?
Yes, there probably is. There's water on all these planets too. You know, they think there's no water. There's water there. He made a gesture that seemed like a Heil, whatever it is. Gesture, which is just what a bunch of losers the Democrats and the left wing are, because they're thinking they have nothing to go on against what he's saying. So they're saying he's a Nazi. That's what you do when you're a loser.
So tell us about the story then.
That's what happened. So it could have happened anywhere, but as a meme, somebody went to the Tesla plant and, you know, sent an image of Heil Tesla, like because of the image that he was doing. That's the way. It's called projection, is that when somebody is bad themselves, they accuse someone else of being...
And then they literally do some projection.
It's just so absurd, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
incredible.
Netanyahu's come out and said, actually, he's done quite a lot for us. I mean, he's just not...
Yeah, Netanyahu, and he has. He's been a great ally of the Jewish people in Israel. And it's the irony here of people who have been supporting actual Nazis, actual people who have killed Jews, and now suddenly like, oh, look at that person over there, they're a Nazi.
Well, and it's the misuse of the term, because people use it...
OK, well, that's actually just a show... I just love seeing it. And it's...
And also, this is silent, but when you hear it, he says, "I give my heart goes out to you," and he touches his heart. And look, we all know he's on the spectrum. He loves telling us that.
It definitely looks a bit Nazi-ish,
somebody
but it's
from
not.
the Anti-Defamation League said, which campaigns against anti-Semitism, said. He made an awkward gesture, not a Nazi salute. And this is what happens. Nerd plus power equals terrible dancing. Everyone knows that.
He's got no
He's
rhythm.
a very awkward guy.
Nerd plus power. Let's write that down.
I think the saddest thing for me is that of course, you expect it from the left and you expect it from certain media. But the saddest thing is actually seeing some people I respect online saying, oh, it's definitely a Nazi salute. And you're like... How are you falling for this? Because you've seen the tricks that they played with Israel or with the trans stuff, but you're falling for this? It's so obviously not.
Because they're desperate, Josh.
Well, I
think it's really interesting is they're coming at him with something that I think he can make a really good defence against. And he's got a few quid. And I think as Trump comes in, these kind of throwing things around, you know, accusing people of all sorts of things that they haven't done is going to be more dangerous, isn't it? Because... I feel like people accusing people of things they haven't done.
Well, how is he going to get back? Through a lawsuit, or is he going to have, hire a publicity agent to say this is not true? I mean, this is what happens. The left is going to wake up one day and they're just going to be, they're on the way out. And in this country, they're on the way out. People are fed up, with the left shenanigans.
Yeah, well, it's...
What were you looking at?
It's amazing to... Seeing it the second time round, I fell for this stuff, by the way. 2017, I fell for all of this.
Right.
So seeing it now, when your eyes have been open to it, it seems so obvious what it is, but it's amazing that there are still people who are captured by it.
Right, but it's also in every area of our life, we've got to stop and say, you know what? Might be true, but I'm going to have to investigate it myself before I believe it.
Well, that's a great point.
And that's especially with Velikovsky. You can say
God, please don't. So, by the way, and shame on the stupid led-by donkeys who are part of this. The most pathetic, pseudo-comedic, weak-willed... Not weak-willed, I don't know, but just, like, the weakest satire... I can't even say it now. I'm, of course, being a hypocrite myself because that was incredibly weak. Right, incredible news in the Independent, Cresta. It seems like the International Criminal Court now actually wants to go after criminals rather than Israel.
International Criminal Court prosecutor requests Taliban arrest warrants over repression of women and girls. Well, it's about time, isn't it? This is really good. So the chief prosecutor of the ICC, this is Karim Khan, he's trying to do this before, by the way. The group have previously looked at the behaviour of the Taliban in Afghanistan and tried to do this, but at the time the probe was shelved because Kabul said it could handle it. Well, they haven't. And what's happened since, of course, we recently heard that that the Taliban have barred women, well, certainly they're barred from jobs, most public spaces, and education beyond 6th grade. What's that? You're an American.
6th grade would be 12.
10.
Right, so
12.
when they're very small.
Do they allow women on headliners? Their version of headliners?
Absolutely not. And I'm offended that you don't think this is work. This is a job, a legitimate job. They're not allowed to have windows now. Women can't be seen, they can't be heard. I mean, obviously, it's not as bad as working here. But having seen this, I am now thinking maybe I could make an application for a...
You could, but why are we going to listen to the International Court prosecutor? They've tried to put Netanyahu on trial. These people are evil. It's the legal firm of Team World, of the Europeans. And they are right that we should not like what's going on in Afghanistan. And I don't. But where were they when the thing happened? You know what I mean? Where were they years ago? Where were they?
I wonder if they're even doing this just to kind of go, hey, look, we do with some other issues as well, rather than just focusing on Israel.
And the point is, with the internet, with all of these Team World things, they represent Europe, and they represent the left wing everywhere.
I say,
and those people are dead.
But the WHO represents China. Do you see that amazing clip of that Taiwanese woman interviewing the WHO guy, and then he basically just cut the interview off? Anyway, it's fantastic. Let's go to the next story. Telegraph now. Lewis, I didn't know your ex was French.
Yes, woman refuses sex is not at fault in divorce in France. Court rules. And this is in The Guardian. How much do you think The Guardian is tomorrow?
How much? Tell us.
£4, so it's more than the Telegraph.
Big bucks.
Oh, no, £3.
Okay,
£3
it's much more reasonable.
£3 tomorrow. Anyway, not that anybody's going to write on Twitter, where I'm at Twitter. You could contact me at Twitter if you have a problem with the prices. Anyway, this woman was sued for divorce, and her husband said she's 69 years old, and she was not having sex with her husband. So her husband says, I can't be married to you because you're not having sex with me. So she took it to court. And
That's not the first time you said that, right?
Yeah. She said, you know what, you can't divorce me just because I'm not having sex. I don't have to have sex with you. It's kind of R-wordy. Right?
Yeah.
It's R-wordy. But the truth is, she's 69 years old. I'm close to 69. It's when somebody wants to have sex with you, you can't say no matter who it is. But you
I feel like you've really grasped what this is about.
I did. You don't understand this.
I think this is puffing up
young
the
and beautiful.
ECH up.
But when you're my age, and when you're this woman's age, I'm not saying she's not beautiful. I would do her, probably. But she should just... Why is this?
I just want to say for Ofcom reasons.
Yeah, for Ofcom reasons, Lewis is satire.
Yeah.
He's not a real person. The European Court of Human Rights, that's what this is. It's bigging them up. It's saying, look how reasonable they are. This poor woman who was in an abusive marriage, and it does sound abusive. Apparently he was physically abusive years ago.
How do we know?
They are so reasonable, the ECHR, and they protect things so well that they've said the right thing for a woman trapped in a loveless marriage.
Yeah. But do you think this is going to make the French leave the ECHR? Like, we're going to leave over that, and they're like, no, we demand that women have sex with us.
In this country, they don't even have that. You don't even have to make an excuse of why you're getting divorced. You don't have to say she stopped having sex with me. You just say, I don't want to be married
You've got plenty of experience.
I do have experience.
The Guardian...
And it can go so fast. There's no ECHR.
The press are not afraid to stick it to their own readership.
Adults diagnosed with ADHD have shorter life expectancy. UK study shows. They looked at 9 million people for this, so they've done a lot of research. And it turns out that men with ADHD die 7 years sooner on average. For women, the life expectancy gap is almost 9 years, which I was surprised at. So why is that? Well, it's not because ADHD ends your life. I think one suggestion here is that people with ADHD, unfortunately, they die more often of suicide, but also they're more likely to engage in risky behaviours like smoking, drinking.
I see. See, I would have thought people with ADHD would live longer because they'd be more careful, like they keep on checking if the gas is off.
That's not ADHD.
ODD. That's something that's oppositional, whatever that is.
All right, well, can I just do that for the joke?
Is the...
No,
look, I knew that already, but let me just do the joke. Come on.
All right, no, the point of this thing and why this is typical British, American pseudoscience is that anybody who has ADHD has been diagnosed, whatever that means. There's no... You know, it's like you've got a pattern of behavior. We think you're crazy.
We think you're annoying.
That's what ADHD is. Yeah. So you're basically telling somebody you're sick. So people who are told they're sick might die sooner. They may not get as.
I'm very stressed about this because my wife says she's got ADHD.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I mean,
Is she smoking and drinking and engaging in risky behaviour?
Well, since we got married. Coming up, a few gems to come, so come back to find out who Oprah is against, they're thin, and who did Biden forget to pardon, CN2.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're tempted to leave the stormy weather in the UK behind and search for some winter sun, actually, there will be some across the Mediterranean, certainly some sunny spells for the Canaries, just 1 or 2 showers around. Windier for Portugal, that's all connected to Friday's storm in the UK, a few showers for Spain, but a lot of fine weather across Italy and Greece aside from the odd shower. Then it does turn much more unsettled across Spain, Portugal and into parts of France during the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
An absolute monster. It took Chloe and Sean Ing 90 minutes to reel in this gigantic 8-foot-long monster fish from Chigborough Fisheries in Essex. And upon weighing this enormous marine beast, it was found to have been 7 pounds heavier than the existing British record, a 143-pound catfish caught also in Essex. But as I understand it, you actually went for a Chinese meal when fate struck. Is that right?
That's correct. So I was fishing an area of Chigborough where you have to fish at a fair distance. So I cast my rods out and then we ordered a Chinese. And yeah, so I got the bite at about 10 to 8 at night. And then about 20 minutes into it, my phone started ringing, the Chinese guys at the gate with my delivery. So I had to send a couple of guys off to go and get it. And then, yeah, the fight, obviously, you can't just stop the fight to go and get your Chinese. So, yeah, the fight went on, for about an hour and a half in total. There's no net in the world that's big enough for this fish. So we had to send out, first of all, I sent out a mate, Alex. He went out there to go and basically use what we call a sling. So that's a safe apparatus that we use to take the fish out of the water. He then went and he turned around and he was like, we're going to need another sling. So then we sent out another friend with a sling, and these slings are 4 foot long each. So then we had the catfish wrapped up in 2 slings, and it was still slightly longer than that. And then we got to a point where we was like, now we've got to try and get it out of the water to photo, to weigh it, because obviously we knew then that it was possibly going to be a UK record.
GB News.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. They catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Lewis, the Mail has Channel 4 with an original solution to the small boats crisis: replace illegal migrants with British people.
Yes, this is the Daily Mail, which is, how much is the Daily Mail tomorrow? £1.10. Row over benefit style Channel 4 show called Go Back to Where You Came From, that will see 6 ordinary Britons experiencing terror of small boat crossing. Yeah, they're going on a Thames trip up to Henley. drinking.
I watched the trailer. There's a lot of shots
No,
of the white cliffs and...
Yeah. No, but this is shocking because what they want to do is they want to show British people how really traumatic it is to come on a small boat from one of the groups are coming from Mogadishu, which is in Somalia, or Raqqa in Syria. I guess they must have filmed it already because they can't get in there. And they actually have Chloe, beautiful Chloe Dobbs, who's from GBNews contributor, is one of the 6 participants. But it's a fraud. I hate to say it. It's a fraud because it's like it's trying to say how can you be against people coming in the small boats when it's so hard?
Well, I don't know if it's opening to debate. What do you think, Krista?
I'm confused. I mean, I watched the trailer and it's very typically reality TV. You get the impression, oh, they're going to go in a boat and it's not going to be very nice. Fair enough. But I don't quite know what the point they're trying to make is, because obviously if you're a real asylum seeker in a boat, you don't know that you've got a film crew, etc., etc.
Yeah,
it's so obvious. I can't believe I'm saying
net.
it. Yeah, so it's not. Yeah. It's clearly not the
They're
same
not
because I don't think Chloe Dobbs is going to get taken out to Syria and abused. But having said that, it does get the conversation going, doesn't it?
This is it, and it's interesting to see if people change their minds, because what we'd had on this channel, I don't remember there was a TV show, I think it was also Channel 4, about where people went and took drugs. I think it was mushrooms or acid. And there was a woman who used to be a regular panellist on the earlier show, and she changed her mind. She sort of became... She was very hardcore, I seem to remember, and then she suddenly became...
Against drugs?
No, but just like, she just sort of was like, you know what, she sort of became a bit of a... Not hippie, but...
Yeah,
what I think is
interesting Channel 4 is doing.
About this is that, in general... I don't know what your social circles are like, but I think ours overlap. You just don't talk about this stuff.
I don't have a social circle.
And now people will talk about it.
You know what? You know what? It's a horrible thing that they feel the need to come all the way from Syria or something to come here. But that doesn't mean we want them here. They can maybe make a better life for themselves.
Reality stars, I agree with you.
And this BBC 4 is taking our tax money.
It's Channel 4 and they don't take
Channel
tax 4,
money. Yes, they do.
No, they don't. Cressida, the Telegraph
are they not owned by us?
Yeah, but they don't take any tax. Cressida, the Telegraph, revealing how Trump is the kind of guy just to let stuff go. Isn't it?
Yes,
it is. I've seen what's happening.
I think it's... Is it that?
Or is it Oprah?
Okay.
No, I mean, no, they don't want to do it. But basically, there is a story about Oprah saying that thin people...
Yeah, she's taken some Ozempic and she's realised thin people, they're not better than us, they're just...
She's saying
they're not, it's not about willpower.
Not hungry, basically.
They just are more biologically suited for losing weight. They've got more genetics for losing weight. And she's saying, I have to lose weight because I don't have the genes for it. Like she's got a disease. And that's... And you know what? I wouldn't believe anything that she says. She's a proper... I don't want to say what she is.
OK, well, let's not say what
she's very sorry.
She is.
She's, as usual, doing that quote... who is it? It's a...
OK, I just like the fact that she just says, I'm doing a bunch of stuff and I also happen to be taking Ozempic, but we don't know what it is that's actually making
And she lied that she wasn't taking it. And she works for this Weight Watchers thing. It's her company, whatever. She owns a lot of it. No. And they got doctors on staff to push it. So she's saying, you don't have to do Weight Watchers. We're going to sell you the stuff through Weight Watchers. She's a horrible, horrible human being.
Oh, I'm a huge fan of hers.
Well, there you go. Well, the
thing is, Josh, women are horrible.
Horrible, yeah. And unfortunately...
No, they're not all horrible. You're half horrible. She is all horrible.
Does she, grow oil as well?
Well, she is oil.
Yes. You never know. Right, let's take another...
she's got a lot of adipose tissue. Yes, probably she's not anymore.
A final look at tomorrow's front page.
I'm sorry for interrupting you.
Evil killer jailed for 52 years. The Daily Mail. What you did was not only cruel and pure evil, it was the act of a coward. The Metro, honour them. The Guardian, Southport attacker jailed for savage murder of 3 girls. The Telegraph, we face a lifetime of grief. He should face the same. And the Star, there's a rat in my kitchen. What am I going to do? That is it for tonight's show. Thank you very much to my guests, Cresta and Lewis. Leo Kearse will be here tomorrow night at 11 p.m. with Steve N. Allen and Nick Dixon. And if you're watching the 5 a.m. repeat, then please stay tuned for breakfast. Take care.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Storm AON is already affecting parts of the Republic of Ireland with some heavy rain setting in, and the winds will continue to strengthen as we go through the night. Here is that storm system. It's been heading towards us over the past 24 hours and now, as I say, arriving across the Republic of Ireland, also throwing rain up across the southwest of the UK. There'll be some snow mixed in as it arrives across Northern Ireland, over the hills, and then as it spreads across Scotland, quite a bit of snow over the hills too, and wet weather sweeping across all areas by morning time. The main concern, though, is the winds. We have a number of Met Office warnings in place, including red weather warnings for Northern Ireland, central and southwestern Scotland. Gust of wind in that red zone, 90 miles an hour, maybe more in exposed areas. Amber weather warnings flanking that those red warnings. Also in here, significant disruption across northern England, North Wales and northern Scotland. So yes, very windy. Some of the strongest winds likely through the morning rush hour across Northern Ireland. Gusts here, as I said, 90 miles an hour, maybe more around coasts, but also then moving into the southwestern corner of Scotland and through the central belt during the morning into the early afternoon. But everywhere it's going to be a very blustery start. And across East Anglia in the southeast, it's also going to be a pretty wet start, but it will be a milder start than we've seen of late. That rain should tend to pull away, and actually for a good chunk of England and Wales, it's a dry, fine, bright day with some sunny spells, but it's going to be very windy, especially across northern England. Those damaging gusts, though, or the most damaging gusts, likely to head into western Scotland through the early afternoon and linger in northern Scotland even into the overnight period. Temperatures a little higher than they have been, of course, not feeling all that mild with the strength of the winds. Saturday's a calmer day, a cold start, some showers in the west, many places dry and bright. Do keep up to date with the forecast. See those warnings for yourself on the Met Office website.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine how £50,000 in cash from us could make your new year go with a bang.
Hi, my name's Victoria. I won the Spring Great British giveaway. So the day we got the money in our bank account, everything just felt a lot lighter. I would say if you're thinking about entering, just enter.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2.